The men's soccer team hasn't won a championship game since 1996, but this year they are looking to change that.
Former coach of the 1996 championship team, MONTE, discusses what it takes to win a state championship and how to achieve a team's goal.
One thing that they did that was probably maybe different from earlier players, they were determined in that final game to win. I don't know how else to explain it. You got to have a little bit of luck. You got to practice. You got to practice like you play. You got to put what you practice into the play, and you got to execute. And that means finish. About not being satisfied being a finalist, but only being satisfied being a champion. And that's what it takes to win a state championship.
Former head coach of the boys team, Mattingly, recognizes what distinguishes soccer from other sports.
I would say soccer more than any other sport is the most difficult because soccer is a game where you can dominate and still lose because it's difficult to score goals at times. I've seen some really amazing teams get knocked out in the second round. I've seen some average teams go all the way. It's that challenging, whereas most sports like football and basketball, if you're dominant, it's going to show in the scoreboard, whereas soccer, you just get unlucky. The other team has a hot goalie, one player can make that difference, or you just don't finish that night. So it's more elusive, I think, in any other sport because of the fact of the game itself, that you can dominate and still lose.
To Coach Mattingly, the desire and want to win is important in completing a full journey throughout the playoffs.
I would say the drive. I think they need to start now as if it's the beginning of the season. In the last few years, they've had a great start to the season. And then when they got to the playoffs, and this happens with a lot of teams because, midterms are coming, are happening. You have the end of the quarter. It's been a long season already. You've already played 20 games. So they have to hit that reset button where it's now the beginning of the year. It's now day one. And they have to focus on it as if it's day one and we have an entire season left to play. And if they can do that and they have that motivation, they can go all the way.
Former assistant coach of the 1996 team, BELCHER, points out the strengths the 2019 team has under their belt.
I think this year's soccer team does an excellent job of passing the ball. They seem really comfortable with each other. And so there doesn't need to be a whole lot of thinking going on as they're moving the ball upfield. They're very comfortable in knowing that their teammate is going to move for them. I feel like the back four defenders on this team, they're very skilled. More importantly, they do an excellent job of getting back. They come back and they defend well. I haven't seen a team in a long time that has those pieces where they can move the ball so quickly together, they can create together, and that their defense is really solid.
BELCHER shines the light on key players that make this soccer team a top-tier team.
Really strong keeper in Connor Kitson. He's very vocal. He's got a great skill set in the back, and you want a keeper back there who's keeping everybody calm and is seeing the field and is addressing things. Chris Guccio does an excellent job of creating. He's a very creative player, has scored some big goals, but I think also he's kind of an unsung hero. And then I think Brian Marshall doesn't get enough credit for his offensive abilities. Brian's back there keeping the defense on lockdown. Brian is also very skilled when he brings the ball up the field. And Brian can be a real offensive threat. And anytime you can attack from the very back, shows a lot of skill, and I think this team can do that. And I find that very impressive.
The 1996 championship team and the 2019 team are similar and different in many ways.
The 1996 team was really special because those guys have been playing together both on their school team and on their club teams, and they just had really incredible chemistry. A lot of vocal leaders. This team has a lot of good chemistry, like I said, in terms of finding one another. What I like about this team, they don't talk as much as the championship team. I wish sometimes they'd talk a little more. But what I've been really impressed with about this team is there are a lot of contributors on this team, meaning if someone goes out, the next person in tends to contribute just as well. They're a little more quiet than the 96 team. They were a very loud bunch, very vocal. I still think that same chemistry is there. I think those guys are doing an amazing job. Some of the guys coming off the bench for this team you don't really see a huge drop off in their performance.